Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And that's why we love talking about People Loving Nashville. We're honored to have with us Ryan Lampa, founder and CEO of People Loving Nashville. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Doing well. Well, when you talk about serving the unhoused community, making a huge difference, powered by volunteerism, there's a lot of good to talk about. But let's start with you being the founder. Give us some background on establishing People Loving Nashville.
Yeah, so it's about 17 years ago. We're going to turn 17 this year. There was two gentlemen that were living right across the street from the house. I was living in downtown Nashville. I met them. My heart broke, and I wanted to make a difference in their lives. Through a series of conversations, I was like, man, okay, I'm going to get you guys some food, get you guys some water. And then I thought, hey, I'm going to bring some financial help to your life. And it was at that moment when I presented that idea to a man named Ron, and he rejected the idea. And I thought, what the heck? And he came back to me and he said, hey, man, you think that I'm coming to you for you to change my life and you to fix all my problems? No, I was coming to be your friend. And it was those moments where for me, I kind of hit my knees and I was like, all right, God, what am I missing? And I was brought on a journey. And so I brought some other friends on that journey to say, hey, okay, it's not just like handouts that our community is asking for. They are hungry. Our community is thirsty. They're looking for fresh clothing, but they're looking for friendship and kinship. And so we just dove out to the streets again 17 years ago. We said, hey, we're going to commit to every single Monday as best as we possibly can. And we haven't missed a Monday for 17 years. And we've grown from that group of 5 people serving 5 people to now a staff of 15 serving about 400 people per week.
Yeah. And when you look at the evolution, the number of programs, obviously, it's grown greatly. And so Let's go ahead and start diving in, because when you talk about relief, community, connection, restoration, there's a lot to what you do. So Go ahead and start diving into the different programs.
Yeah, sure. So again, like we started with that street emergency supply outreach. So that's our relief pillar. So we're bringing food, drink, clothing, emergency supplies, and that's the basics of what we bring. Now, at times we'll come in the winter, we'll bring jackets and heavy sleeping bags, survival stuff. Now that next pillar where we talk about community. So we build on that. We build on we come, we set the table. But loneliness is a huge epidemic. I don't know if you guys remember that study that the Surgeon General did in 2023 that said 1 out of every 2 people experiences loneliness. And so we see that on the streets, very, very much so. And so we come with an army of volunteers. When I say army, I mean literally an army of volunteers. We average about 80 volunteers every single week. And we come to the streets to not only bring that relief, but also bring elements of community. We bring education along with our volunteer community to, just to kind of bring the issues to light, but also ways that we can respond in that. We have what we call our Homefullness journey. So that's our connection pillar. We realized that our friends that we were coming, to see every single week, we needed connections to resources, whether it be addiction and recovery, healthcare, food insecurity, and housing, which would be, the most influential part of that, where we would say, how do you cure homelessness? A house, a place to live. And so that team works tirelessly throughout the week to bring connections to all those other things that I had mentioned, but mainly to housing. And so they're walking through the journey with a lot of our folks to get from homelessness to homefullness. That's why we call that our Homefullness journey. Now, we established that program. Everything was going great. We're serving people, getting people into housing. And then they said, hey, the story's not over. Just because I get house keys doesn't mean that I'm not still struggling with, okay, what do you need? And it was resounding, I need a place to work and I need a place to heal. And so we said, fine, let's take our develop a program that we could do that. And we had an idea to start a coffee company because we love coffee and everybody loves coffee. We're like, hey, that's recession proof. Like, let's try that idea. And so we dove into the coffee business. We started as a coffee, just a roastery, supplying jobs and a place to heal. And now we've opened up a coffee shop on West End, right downtown Nashville, across the street from Centennial Park. So it's a shop. We employ those that used to be experiencing homelessness and now not. And again, we're just supplying those jobs in a place to heal. And so it's a really great journey to think about. Okay, we started with a basic meal, maybe a fresh shirt and a pair of pants, built a relationship, then trust into resources. And now once in housing, we actually have the option to say, hey, let's help you stay in housing and build that resiliency.
Yeah, and I think from a social entrepreneurialism, social enterprise too, obviously. So, I mean, when you look at the growth, the evolution, but that heart for serving that permeates, is powerful. And so share a little bit of an illustration around, because you mentioned the loneliness epidemic. And so talk about the individuals you serve. Paint the picture, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions, misperceptions out there. So talk about what you have a chance to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. People will say like, man, homelessness is such an issue. And I would say, gosh, man, homelessness is what I would say is the umbrella over the issue, because homelessness can be defined in so many different ways. You have people that are living in their cars. You get people that are living in people's, couch surfing, if you will, like staying with friends and family once in a while, don't have a place of their own. They could be staying in extended stay hotels or just, conventional hotels and just trying to make it work that way. We also have people that live in shelters or that are living in interim housing, those that live in housing and it's just unstable. Right. We serve everyone from literally from babies and families all the way up to grandma and grandpa. We have couples, we have multi-generational families. We see it all. And so you think about on Monday night, we serve, our outreach is on Monday night. We go directly to the streets at 7:00. Most of the time we get these sentiments, I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know who else to come to. And so we re-embrace that. We say, okay, we are kind of like a last stop for a lot of folks. We're coming across the most vulnerable, but we're also coming across people that you would never know are experiencing homelessness. And so that's one, a really hard thing that we continually wrestle with. For like, it's not just homelessness that's the issue, though. It's a rise in housing costs. It could be tragedy. It could be mental illness or addiction. It could be fleeing really dangerous relationships. So all of those things, they fall underneath this umbrella that results in homelessness. But it's a lot of other issues that are kind of prolonging to cause that.
Yeah, and I think for so many who live paycheck to paycheck, trying to feed their family, one small thing can throw everything off kilter. And next thing you know, to your point, you're living in your car or you're couch surfing or you're homeless. And so I think that's where the grace, the respect, the understanding, I think is really important. And also too, like you mentioned, rising cost of apartments, homes, like all of that, scarce inventory, like there's a lot of factors that go into play. It's a very complex, situation. And so I love the fact that you're kind of navigating through all those complexities. Carry that into a success story. Obviously, you have a chance to see it firsthand, to build those friendships and relationships. You don't have to name names, but give us a success story.
Yeah. So the first one that comes to mind is a couple. I'll leave their names out of it, but a couple that has been coming actually for quite a long time to receive services from us. They were living on the streets and just needing food. And so we were getting them connected to resources. They became pregnant on the streets. And as a couple, they were like, we want to have this child. We want to keep this child. And so we journeyed with them to get them into other resources that resulted in housing and stable housing, and then getting into, even parental classes and having other supports that were put around them. And as we've journeyed with them, now they are actually, I think as of last week, they were going through the orientation to now be in our restoration program, to now gain job skills and a place to heal. Because you can think about that over the past few years in the high trauma life of living in a tent in an encampment is a tough place to exist. It's a beautiful place for some folks, but it's not meant for a prolonged amount of time. And so there's a lot of things that we found that are threatening housing stability that have come from trauma and that have come from maybe even learning a way of life that doesn't look like conventional life for those that are housed. So what that looks like is mind, body, and soul healing. Again, we're not coming in going, hey, here's your prescription. This is what you need to do. It's more like saying, hey, Jeremy, tell me about these parts of your life. And then when you look at these parts of your life, what do you think needs most support? And then you as the individual, or in this case, the couple that I'm talking about, would say, you know what, these parts of my life are needing some care. And so that we have navigators in our restoration program to say, okay, here's the places where you can get care around those things. And it's a really beautiful process. Again, it's awesome because it's tied to work. You know, you can come in and earn a paycheck, and part of your shift is actually sitting with one of our restoration specialists to navigate to the next best step.
Carry that into how can the community get involved? Because obviously powered by volunteerism. So volunteerism is huge. Being a volunteer, the coffee shop, obviously. So buying coffee and, there's a lot of ways the community can get involved. So talk about if we can help.
Yeah, let me give you 3 different ways you guys can get involved. So one is just come and show up as a volunteer. It's super easy. Come to peoplelovingnashville.com, click the volunteer link, and you go through, and there's a little bit of a guide of like times and places. We have multiple different times and multiple days that you can come and volunteer. And it's very easy. We give you a training, and we just say, hey, here's what you can do. Sometimes you're just serving the food. Sometimes you're serving clothing and distributing that. And other times you're what we call community engagement, and you're just shaking hands. And like we were saying, that second pillar of community is combating that loneliness. And you might say, well, that doesn't really do much. I'll say, and from the streets, we've heard this, that the food and the drink is just as important as the community side. And we give really great a venue, if you will, for that. So come volunteer with us. That's the first way. Second way, come drink a cup of coffee at Paradeisos Coffee Shop on West End. Every coffee bean is roasted from those that used to experience homelessness. Now they're not, and they're finding housing stability. We're at maximum capacity of offering jobs right now. We can't offer any more jobs because you're not drinking our coffee yet. So the idea here is come over, drink more coffee so we have to roast more beans. So then we have to provide more jobs. The last thing is that we have a wonderful array of events that come around People Loving Nashville. We have a wonderful event coming up May 19th. It's called Smoke on the Water. It's a 28-year-old fundraiser. And we're going to the General Jackson boat that goes down the river. We rented out the boat, and you get to come out and have a wonderful meal. If you're into cigars, we're going to have complimentary cigars there. You can find a nice spot to sit with your friends and have just a wonderful evening. It's beautiful. We're selling tickets like crazy. So please go to peoplelovingnashville.com. There should be a little banner that pops up. Just click that and buy a few tickets for you and your friends. It's going to be a wonderful night.
Share some of the lessons you've learned, especially for other communities, as they try to emulate and take some of the things that you're doing on your end as best practices back to their community. And I think one of the things that struck me really too is just the conversation, the dignity by saying, hey, what do you need versus us telling you what you need, right? There's a whole thing around respect and dignity that I think is very important. But talk about maybe 1 or 2 things that you've learned, moments, things that you would share with other communities who are trying to help their unhoused community.
Yes, that's awesome. And I will come back to the sentiment of I don't know what the best thing is for Jeremy. I barely know what the best thing is for myself. So there's times where I go, okay, so what does that require? It requires 2 things. One, I would say, is presence. It requires my presence. It requires me to set the phone down, maybe put it on silent, and say, I'm going to dedicate a certain amount of time to those that are suffering. Now, 2, what presence requires is margin. And that I didn't realize that. I kind of came into this early on. I was 24 years old saying, I want to change lives, right? So I'm going to bring a meal, but I want to change your life. And I can't be the guide of that. Only the people that we're serving, the people that we're advocating for, the people that we're standing in the gap with, they have the keys, they have the passwords, they have the lantern to go into the cave. We're just the helper, we're just the guide. And so I learned early on, and I'm so grateful that I learned that early on, that I'm not the savior here. I'm not the problem solver here. I'm just the guide. We companion alongside those that we serve, and that anyone in our community can do that. And I hear it all the time. They're like, no, I don't have what it takes to companion. And I say, well, I would challenge that, because every single one of us has a unique story, and we can all share that. I can't take your story away from you. You have a unique part of your story, and you'd be baffled on how many parts of our story you can share with those that are suffering, when you're saying, wow, me too. I'll tell you this is a great story, and you might be like, okay, well, what exactly are you talking about? And I'll use his name because he's a very good friend of mine, but his name is Carl. And early on, what we connected on was the Broncos. And I'm not talking about horse, I'm talking about the Denver Broncos. And this was no joke. 17 years ago, we met each other on the streets, and he saw I had a Broncos hat on. He's like, hey, what do you know about those Broncos? I was like, man, they always keep us on our toes. He's like, don't they? And every single week we connect on the Broncos, in that we built our relationship on that, and that we've been able to walk through some really tough things. And it's funny enough, I would say, hey man, can I pray for you in these things? Because I'm a believer. And that he would say, no. I'm praying for you. You got stuff too. And that we've learned to walk together. And I've learned so much from Carl. There's another gentleman named Barry, where he's desperately wanting me to go to college. So he's always asking me like, hey, I just, that wasn't part of my path. And I mean, I'm very interested in education, but he's one who's encouraging me to go down those paths, and where I get to encourage him in certain ways. It's a two-way street. And so it's a really beautiful thing that we get to share with those that are suffering, because it turns out that there's so much more in common than we have that we don't have in common.
Yeah, beautifully said. And it goes back to, for those who serve and volunteer, you always hear that phrase of, you gain so much more than you get,
Yes.
as a volunteer. And it is, to your point, it's a two-way street. And I think that's the power of relationships and the friendships that are formed. And so you've mentioned it before. Go ahead and mention again, website, social media. Where do we go to learn more and get involved with People Loving Nashville?
Yep. So just join us again, peoplelovingnashville.com. You can follow us on Instagram as well. It's just People Loving Nashville there. We share a lot of stories about what's going on in our community. And, what's really, I think what's really special about Nashville here, or People Loving Nashville, is that we are in Nashville. We're literally in the backyard of our city. We have a lot of folks, volunteers that come all the way from Williamson County or Wilson County that drive in and say, hey, I'm going to dedicate, and it takes 2 hours. 3 hours if you come early, and that you're dedicating that, again, you're dedicating that margin and presence to those that are suffering, and that, again, that two-way street, both of our cups can be filled in just a Monday night.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you for all you and your amazing team do to power the good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.